Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 6 of season 10 of Tomorrow's Talk Today. I'm your host, Nick Jones, and today I'm joined by panelists Savannah Bartlett, Michaela Pisa, and Taylor Blunt. On today's episode, we'll be discussing popular conspiracy theories, including Area 51, human cloning, and the 27 Club. Our guests today have watched and analyzed a plethora of videos and written work on the topic, including YouTube breakdowns, scholarly articles, and interviews. To begin our discussion, let's take a quick look at a clip exploring the mystery behind Area 51.
Bob Lazar is someone who became famous back in 1989 as a result of a very specific claim that he made. And that claim is that he worked at a place just south of Area 51. He called it S4. He was interviewed by Las Vegas journalist George Knapp in a series of very detailed interviews.
We put him on the air, blacked out his face, and he told this incredible story.
Exactly what's going on up there?
Well, there's several, actually 9 flying saucers, flying discs that are out there of extraterrestrial origin.
He said it's a secret that needed to be told to the world, that his life was in danger, and that he was coming forward and wanted to tell it. I could feel my jaw dropping. Is this real? We left there thinking, wow, if this is real, this is a really big story.
After watching that clip, it's clear that Area 51 has been surrounded by secrecy and speculation for decades. Vanna, why do you think the government's secrecy around Area 51 has led to so many people to believe in these alien-related conspiracies?
You know, I think that there's always been a distrust in the government, especially when they're hiding stuff. So, like, with Area 51, nobody really knows what's happening there. So, seeing that people want to have an explanation for everything. Like, no matter what it is, they want to know why it happens, what's going on, whatever. And I also think with Area 51 kind of being a thing more in like the 70s and 80s, sci-fi was a big thing at that time. So aliens kind of just went hand in hand. They were like, oh, maybe they're making movies about whatever's going on to deflect or whatever that whatever people like to say. So I think that, you know, having that level of distrust in the government mixed with the sci-fi craze of that time really just pushed that conspiracy forward.
Yeah. And so, Michaela, we've seen events like the Storm of Area 51 movements go viral online. What do you think social media, how do you think it's influenced the way that people talk about and engage with this type of controversy?
Well, I definitely think like the fact that they were going to raid it, I definitely think they kind of make a joke out of it, but I definitely think it starts off of being curious more than anything else and looking for answers. But once again, it's a government facility. You're not going to get straight up answers because, like Vanna was saying, a lot of distrust in the government. So even if they do give you answers, everybody's not going to believe that. So, you know, it's really about just our generation, like, looking for answers, and then when they're not receiving them or it's not something that they believe, they want to go find out for themselves. And that's kind of what, like, part of it for some people was a joke to raid Area 51, and then other people were like, no, we're going and we're going to find out what they're up to and why they're being so secretive about it and this, that, and the third. And so I genuinely think that it starts off as curiosity, and then, you know, just our generation kind of makes a joke out of everything, and so it kind of became a joke. But once again, people were still looking for those answers, so I think it kind of just mixes into a joke and, you know, being curious about what's really going on inside there.
I agree. I agree. So, Taylor, based on what you have watched, what is actually confirmed about Area 51, and do you think that people tend to misunderstand or exaggerate that conspiracy about Area 51?
I think it's confirmed it's a government facility. We know that for sure. I think when you get into the conspiracy theory, of course, it's speculation, and people really don't like when they can't explain something or they don't have a reasoning for it. So I think that the best way to describe it is, like you were saying, that people just want to know information, and whatever way to do it, they'll do that, even if it means making a joke of it, and then some people take it serious. I think that any government facility you can't just walk into. I mean, that's like us walking into the White House and just demanding to go into the Oval Office. There's precautions for everything, and that's for safety reasons, and just, you know, you don't need hundreds of thousands of people knowing every single detail of minute information that we might need for whatever reason. But I think it's a government facility. It's like walking into NASA and trying to get on a rocket. There's some things that you can't do, and I think people don't like to be told that they can't access information. I mean, and it's human nature to want to know the things that you can't know, just curiosity in general. But I think that people have to take a step back and remember that if you're not an expert in this field, or there's reasons for everything, but of course speculation happens and takes over, but being curious is always good and important. I think it's just a balance of knowing what's appropriate and how far you're going to take it. To raid Area 51 might be a little bit extreme.
Yeah, I would definitely have to agree as far as how far people are willing to push that boundary of the controversy. You know, when it was becoming very viral and trendy on Facebook and several other social media sites, you know, I would often see people actually getting very, very close to the gates of the actual facility, whereas I've heard from other, you know, resources that you aren't allowed within a certain amount of miles of the actual facility itself, given its secrecy and its level of security. And so I do agree with the fact that, you know, that secrecy is there, and people are always going to want to push to find out more about it. But like you said, you can't just walk into a top secret that's been top secret for centuries, decades now. Not centuries, I apologize, decades. And expect to get what you want. You know, there's still rules and levels to it. And so, but Kayla, what are your thoughts about that? Do you have any viewpoint on that?
Yeah, no, I totally agree with what you were saying about like the mix of some people not being able to get close at all, and then, you know, some people being right there at the gate. And, you know, personally, I've seen videos of people get up right to the gate, and, you know, it's kind of alarming, at least for me personally, because every military base, anything that's like government, is normally very well protected, and like you can't get in with a radius with it. Like, you know, there's certain like checks you have to go through. You have to be within a certain amount of feet, but never are you really up at the gate like some people have been with Area 51. And so, you know, we hear a bunch of these rumors about what's going on inside the gate and, you know, what they're making in there, and, you know, that they're possibly making stuff like UFO, like parts and all this, that. But my thing is, if it really is something that big, why is it not being protected as a typical military base? And, you know, they're telling us, like, they protect something that we know, like military bases. We know pretty much what's in there. We know like the weapons that, you know, the U.S. uses and everything like that. And so when it comes to something that big that the public is unaware and honestly frantic about, it's concerning a little bit, or I want to say distrusting that, is there really something that big in there? Because if there was, would you really be letting people get that close?
Sounds good. What do you think? So I would have to say that you all had really good answers and interesting points. It shows how powerful mystery and lack of information, it goes a long way. And so we're going to take a quick break, but don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Rugby is power.
From the scrum, to lineouts, to tackling, it promotes determination and rewards hard work.
Rugby is acceptance of any and every body type.
Rugby is teamwork. It is building a family and supporting them no matter what.
When we step onto the pitch, nothing else matters except for the game that we love. Rugby is power. Power for women, power for the team, power for Longwood.
Welcome back. Now we're shifting into a topic that's been seen all over social media: human cloning, especially when it comes to celebrities. Let's take a look at a clip discussing the rise of celebrity cloning theories.
A huge conspiracy theory about beloved Hollywood actor Jim Carrey right now, because people are saying he's acting and looking very different. Did the Illuminati finally get their loudest whistleblower and clone him, thus silencing him? This is like two conspiracy theories in one, so here's everything you need to know.
I'm here tonight to blow the lid off it, to be the whistleblower.
So yesterday, 64-year-old Jim Carrey received a Caesar Award in Paris, which is like a French Oscar. And he was just suspiciously acting out of character for the iconic Jim Carrey personality. And longtime fans also noticed he looked younger or very different. And for a lot of actors in Hollywood, that's the norm. He's 64. I support people getting work done. But a lot of conspiracy theorists who are really just diehard fans say normally Jim Carrey would never do this. His whole brand is drastically changing his facial expressions and melding his face into whatever he needs to do for his role. It's just the last person you would ever expect to do that. But what's really freaking people out and driving home the conspiracy theory is that his eyes are a completely different color now. They are green, but they used to be very obviously brown. Is it him? Is someone new under the mask? And Jim Carrey is infamous for his whole career long time.
That clip definitely gives us a lot to think about. Michaela, where do you see these celebrity cloning theories pop up, and why do they gain so much traction online?
When they come to my attention, it's usually on like TikTok or Instagram, and it's someone like pointing out differences in a celebrity. And I definitely think it gets a lot of like traction because it's a celebrity. Like there's a lot of fan bases for those celebrities, and so when something they come back and like they have a drastic change, like people are gonna notice, their fan bases are gonna notice, and they're gonna like nitpick at them and find out like what's changed, like is there a reason for this change. Like I've seen like some celebrities like disappear for a little while and come back, and then all of a sudden they're completely different, and everybody's like, that's not the same person. And so it's like they go and nitpick everything, and they pick apart their posts, they pick apart their language, they literally will pick every single thing that they think they know about this person, but once again, they only see the celebrity side of them. So like there could be something else going on, but I definitely think it gains a lot of traction just because they have that fan base and people want to remember them the way that they were before.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree. You know, for example that I would pull is Kodak Black, who's a rapper. He went under the radar for a while, a few months, and then all of a sudden he popped back out. He went to jail, so he was gone for a while. He came out and, you know, he looked visibly very different. You know, I know jail does a lot of things to a lot of people, but not to the extent that it affected him. You know, his hair looked completely different. His face, the shape of his face changed kind of. The way that he talked and acted and who he surrounded himself with was different. You could tell that he was kind of on edge a little bit with like his mentality. He wasn't all the way there, and so I think there is some concern with that. But at the same time, I feel like you age, you do, and life happens. Your body's going to react differently. Everyone's does, but it is a little suspicious to me that they change so much without much explanation. So yeah, I would say that. Taylor, there have been many claims about figures like Jim Carrey, for example, or Selena Gomez. Why do you think that there's so many people that are quick to believe in such a theory? Yeah.
I think when we talk about any celebrity or like influencer or, you know, actor, whoever it may be, people feel like they know them on a really deep personal level, but at the end of the day, like they're just on a screen or social media or whatever you're watching them on, and they're not actually like your best friend or someone you know on a personal deep level. And I think if someone comes back from being away, like you were saying, Jim Carrey, if he falls off for a little bit, it's not as famous, or Selena Gomez is another example. When they come back and they're like even slightly different, people are like, oh, that's not who they are, that's not how they act. And it's like, okay, well, do you actually know Selena Gomez personally and how she is in all facets of her life? Because that could just be who she is outside of what you've seen before. So I think it comes down to nitpicking, like you were saying, 100%. And I think Jim Carrey in particular, he came out and was very much saying, you know, I'm a whistleblower. And so when you say that, people are going to look at you every moment after that and say, okay, did something happen to him? Did he get changed? And I know he came out and said something like, if my hair looks this way or if I look this way when I come back, they got me. And so I think anyone's going to try to look at every single thing that he posts or does or says or any speech from there on out and see if anything looks slightly different. And then, you know, it just goes down the barrel of social media and people nitpicking constantly. And I think, like you said, any person takes a break and you kind of forget how they were, or if they're even growing up, I think it's like Justin Bieber's another example, like a child star and then he's now a man. Like, he's going to be different than he was when he was 13 years old singing love songs. So it's like people just start to assume, oh, something terrible must have happened to him. And maybe, you know, these are conspiracy theories, so of course there's levels to it. But I think that anyone changes, like you were saying, with age. I mean, Jim Carrey is not going to be the same. Selena Gomez is going to be different. And they are humans that we don't really know on a personal level.
Yeah, I 100% agree. So speaking on that and going off of that, Vanna, do you think that social media is blurring the line between entertainment and reality when it comes to these theories, this specific theory?
I think that social media, kind of like how Taylor was saying, like there's a lot of parasocial relationships. So people, again, want explanations. Like kind of is a common theme with all conspiracy theories. They want an explanation. Why were you gone so long? Why is this one thing different about you? So social media kind of exaggerates all of those qualities and features that people see on a regular basis from these celebrities, and they're like, oh, this is not you. And it's like, you don't know this person. Like, if they saw you on the street, they wouldn't know who you are, so you don't know who they are. So I think it kind of really plays into that. And social media really is the platforms are a lot more about making connections and being personal with people. So I think people kind of get into that mindset of, oh, well, I have the right to know everything about you, so you have to explain everything to me. So I think that's where these theories come from. It's like, oh, you're not explaining something, so something sinister is going on, or something out of the ordinary is going on, and that's not necessarily always the case.
Understandable. I 100% agree. Hypothetically, though, let's just say, if this is for all of you, by the way, if there were to be a clone of you out in the world, anywhere, how would you react emotionally? Would you be scared? Would you be excited? Would you be curious or mad? How would you react?
I think it would be weird. We can make jokes, I guess. Like if I was like, I feel like I'm pretty busy, so it would be nice to have someone to like help out with things. I feel like that would be like, that's the first thought is like, oh, let's be like an assistant kind of as a person. But then it's like you go into the ethical like reality of what that means. And people are more than just like their genes and like their genetic makeup, like the things that have happened to you in your life. And so if this second version of myself didn't have the same home life or the same situations in this person's life, how different would they actually be if they're the exact same makeup as me? So I don't know. I think that it would be really scary. It wouldn't be individual anymore. I guess your life would be kind of, it's almost like, would that person be classified as a clone, or would they be their own individual person? How does that work in a society? So I don't know. I think it would probably cause way more harm than good in the big scheme.
Anyone else?
Well, I definitely haven't thought about it as hard as Taylor. Definitely I'd be scared. But something that comes to my woman mind is like, dang, I could throw some outfits on her and see how she looks. I could, how also there's that thing about the mirror, like you don't actually know what you look like. I could know what I look like. So even though I'd be scared, I think it'd be pretty cool, but logically probably not. I probably would be terrified and dig a grave for him.
Definitely, I think kind of going off of what both of y'all were saying, you really don't know what you look like. Mm-hmm. It's like, I don't know if I would necessarily recognize it, honestly, because I have an image of myself, and I see myself all the time, but if I saw an actual living version of myself, I just don't think that I would. I don't even know, I really don't think I would recognize it. Honestly, I would be like, that's not what I look like. That can't be me. This is doppelganger. This isn't real. I think that's where my mind would go.
I would say I'm sort of the same. Ever since I was little, I've always wanted a brother, little or older. And so if I were to have an actual carbon copy of myself, exactly like myself, I would think I would be excited, but at the same time, I'd probably want to beat myself up a little bit, probably cuss myself out. I don't know, but it's a little scary. But I think at the same time, it's like you said, it's like having an extra, person to do your chores for you. So, but yeah, clearly social media, it plays a huge role in how these ideas spread and evolve. Don't tune out just yet. We'll be right back to discuss our final topic here on Tomorrow's Talk Today.
Do you need B-roll for that next comm class project? If so, we've got that B-roll. Are you not Ryan Fletcher and you haven't attended every event? We've got that B-roll. Are you not Cole Pello and haven't taken photos of every event? We've got that B-roll. Do you need shots of students eating pizza or getting their Starbucks? What about some building signs? We've got that B-roll. Do you need shots of students pressing buttons? What about doing the other things that look techie? We've got that B-roll. Do you need shots of fall on campus or students making random mugs? We've got that B-roll. Do you need a shot of Taylor Reevely IV being inaugurated as the president of Log One? No! That's not B-roll. That's too specific. Do you need random B-roll shots with the tripod left in the background? What you don't like about the tripod in the background? I just left it there and it was great. Next time you have a comm class project, remember, we've got that B-roll for the low, low price of $19.99. You can have access to all our library of B-roll. Call 434-395-2384 today before they sell out.
Thanks for sticking with us. To end our discussion, we're taking a look at the 27 Club, a theory surrounding famous artists who have died at the age of 27. Let's watch a clip that explores this theory.
Brian Jones, Jimi Hendrix, Janis Joplin, Jim Morrison, Kurt Cobain, and Amy Winehouse, all famous musicians who died young at the peak of their careers. But they also share something else in common. They were all 27 years old when they passed. And this connection has led many people to ask the question, are famous musicians somehow more susceptible to dying at 27 than at any other age? And from this, the idea of the 27 Club was born. An informal list mostly made up of famous musicians, but also includes celebrities of other fields, and all of whom have died at 27. But is there any truth behind it? Like, is there some sort of supernatural power at work here? Well, in this video, we're going to dive into the history of the club and uncover possible explanations in order to determine if the phenomenon is fact or fiction.
This is definitely one of the most talked about and mysterious patterns in pop culture. Taylor, do you think that the 27 Club is just some big conspiracy or coincidence, or do you think that there's something deeper going on in the music industry?
I think there's multiple parts to it, but in communication studies, we always talk about like correlation doesn't mean causation. And I think you could take anything and say, this many people do this, so that means it has to be, they're 27 and something killed them at the same age. And I think that that's like a big jump. If you look at all the people who have passed away at young ages or at the start of their career, there's many other causations that aren't just, a supernatural thing at 27 or whatever the suspicion is with it. I think at a start of a career for anyone, there's tons of artists who deal with substance abuse issues, depression issues, and anything under that umbrella. So I think if you look at it, that might be more of what the causation of that age is. If like they're developing and they're kind of hitting the peak of their stardom, that could lead to it. But I think just assuming that their deaths are coming because they're 27 and there's this big conspiracy like we've been talking about, I think people try to make reason for things that they can't explain. And all of us, it's a human natural tendency to want to explain something. And I think it's a hard concept to deal with, that someone might have, fell to something that's tragic and upsetting and terrible. And it could have been preventable, but we can't change it. So then trying to put like a explanation on top of it, I guess, something that's bigger and not as, achievable to say that everyone passed away from the age of 27 because of something they can't explain it, so they just want to put it into a big lump. But obviously conspiracy theories have backing to them too, so I don't know.
Yeah. So Vanna, how do you think that these fan edits or tribute videos or comment sections, how do you think that they shape the narrative around artists and their deaths?
I think it really glorifies like their deaths, because a lot of the people that are considered within the 27 Club are not dying of natural causes. It's a lot of like drug overdose or murder, things like that. So a lot of people, they make these edits because they see those connections between artists, and they're like, and of course, like, again, we were talking about parasocial relationships. People have those attachments to these articles and to these artists in different aspects of their life. So they want to immortalize them. They want to have them be connected to something. And through the social media edits, comment sections, things like that, they are able to further connect them. And then, of course, with that social media presence, conspiracy theories form. So it comes back to, oh, wait, all of these people that we're super connected to are also connected to this theory. Let me go research the theory, and then that's when the theory blows up and all different things happen.
Yeah.
So.
And I agree. I would think that, I don't think that there's a reason why. I do agree with you about, it's not just being about natural causes, because it's people outside of being a celebrity pass away at the age of 27. That's a given. But when we're focusing on honing in on just specifically celebrities, it is a little suspicious that age specifically is the age which we're seeing a decline in the health of these young artists, whether that be in entertainment, music, TV, and I have to agree that it mostly has to probably come from mental illnesses, as well as drug abuse, anything of that nature that would require them being hurt or abused physically or mentally. And so I think that it is suspicious, but at the same time, it's a recurring theme that I think is just a problem overall in the entertainment industry, that is a hard mold to break because it's been set since the 80s that, I don't know how really deep I want to dive into the substances and everything that was taken from the 80s until this point. But it's definitely altered and shaped how the life expectancy of these young artists. And so, Michaela, how do you think that social media and the internet have shaped the way that people interpret the 27 Club?
I definitely think they interpret it the way they want to.
Yeah.
I definitely think it's kind of everybody for themselves, or if someone posts something and it gets a lot of attention, then other people will kind of jump on that like theory or interpretation. But you know, personally for like me, I see a lot of the 27 Club being like associated with them making a deal with the devil. And you know, and as you and Vanna were saying, like a lot of their deaths aren't natural. It's not, you know, just something, it's always something with like substances or, you know, something along those lines. And once again, as common as that is in the music industry, it is weird to see the 27 Club, like, and it, once again, not all natural. So it makes it really concerning, and I think the media really interprets that into being something that the celebrity maybe thought they were never going to get big enough, and so, you know, they decided to probably go make a deal with the devil, and, you know, and it just leads down this rabbit hole of bad things. And, you know, personally, I think it's a coincidence that, you know, they were all 27, but, you know, the media, once again, will interpret it in its own ways. But I don't think it helps to say it's a coincidence when, once again, none of them were natural deaths.
Yeah. And so this is for all of y'all. Why do you think that people are so drawn to turning tragedies into conspiracy theories instead of accepting the real world, you know, implications, explanations of these conspiracies?
I think it's hard to, you know, accept that someone might have passed away at such a young, bright age of 27 to a substance, because it's something that's preventable. And, you know, as fans of anything, you kind of have to feel like, oh, like, they're famous because I watch them or I listen to them or whatever it may be. So it's kind of that weird relationship, like we talked about, that it's not a direct relationship, but you feel like you know them. So it's like you want to almost defend their, you know, I guess the way that they're perceived with the media by trying to make up a solution to it that might not be so tragic and hard to accept as a human. I mean, I think death is one of those things that's really hard to wrap our brains around as a whole. And so when you talk about something that's so dark and tragic, trying to make an explanation for it that could be a little bit less on them and a little less, I guess, guilt-based would be a way that a human would try to make it seem more right in their mind. But I think, like you said, social media, they'll run with anything you say and try to make an explanation for it. And I think humans want to try to explain everything, whether that's Area 51, the 27 Club, or human cloning, anything that's different than what they perceive or expect to happen, they want to make an explanation for.
Yeah, I would agree. Anything that really goes against the grain of what is socially accepted or what is known and accepted by society, you know, over the span of centuries, even, you know, decades, I think that people are going to be stubborn in the way that they believe certain things. There's always going to be that need for wanting more, but at the end of the day, you're going to get what you get. And it's up to you to do your research and to, you know, keep up with what you believe in and what you are very potently knowledgeable about. And so I think that if you believe in these conspiracy theories, then that is totally your right and your, you know, that's the expectation that you hold for yourself in society. And I don't think that, you know, socially it's required of you to change that perspective. I think that everyone's entitled to their own opinion. And so I don't know if down the road, 10 years from now, if these conspiracy theories will still be a thing or if it'll be new reiterations of them, but I'm looking forward to it. And so I'd like to thank you all for joining me. This has really been a thought-provoking discussion, but that's all the time we have for today. I'd like to thank our panelists for their opinions and everyone behind the scenes for making this program possible. Be sure to subscribe to Longwoods Comm Studies on YouTube to get notifications when the next episode is streaming. I'm your host, Nick Jones, and we'll be back in 2027. Thanks for watching Tomorrow's Talk Today.